listening to the WDYM, the What Do You Mean podcast. Now everyone gather around and listen to one of Hamilton's best podcasts. No research to back this up. Your host, Michael Gillespie.
And continuing the theme from last episode where we discussed Dragon Ball and its future and all that stuff, we are discussing the headcanon or ideas that I come up every time I watch Dragon Ball. I'll be like, hey, why are they doing that? Or, you know, why is this still a thing and this, that, and the other? So that's what today's episode is about. We're going to cover 10 topics that make me scratch my head and go, But without that, let's get a call to action going. If you listen to the show on a regular basis or not, I would really appreciate you going to Apple and leaving a comment, a rating, something on there. I wouldn't mind that at all. Also, email me. Hit me up at the WDYM podcast at gmail.com. Again, that's the WDYM podcast at gmail.com. So 10 things that I find interesting about Dragon Ball that maybe ask questions yourself like, well, why do they do that? Or something like that. So the first one, or number one, are the humans on Earth. Why is Bulma the only one able to collect Dragon Balls? Why is she the only one able to get 6 out of 7, 7 out of 7, and always making wishes? And if you watch Dragon Ball Superhero, she always has them, and she makes these wishes about getting eyelashes or getting a fatter booty and all that stuff. And it's like, are you kidding me? Are you just the only one that could do that? Now, granted, they say that Bulma is one of the smartest people on Earth, and rightfully so. She is able to put a whole house in a capsule and able to release at any time, and it magically just house is set up like it's never been touched before. Maybe she is one of the smartest people on Earth. But let's take some of the other aspects and put it into the world of Dragon Ball. What I mean by that is, let's take someone like, I don't know, Peter Parker, who is a freaking genius in the Marvel comic book world, and have this genius teenager, a gifted teenager that goes to high school, notices the sky going black and a big old dragon in the sky. Is like, wow, how do they do that? And have this kid build him a dragon radar and make a wish for himself. Why can't that be a thing? I think that'll be very interesting arc, to say the least. Is like to have someone who can rival the genius or have the ability to get the Dragon Balls themselves. You would think like the Red Ribbon Army would have a way to make a dragon radar to find the Dragon Balls themselves, because I'm pretty sure they know that they exist, but yet they haven't done that yet. Another thing about humans on Earth is why no human fighter has ever gone through the Room of Spirit and Time, or in the English dub, the Hyperbolic Time Chamber. The Hyperbolic Time Chamber is where a warrior can go in there, get a year's worth of training, and then come back out, and only one day has eclipsed in the real world. Why hasn't any human done that? I have not seen it. I read the manga. I think Tien was the closest one to do it, but he gave up at the end. He gave up his turn to somebody else. But this whole time, Goku's gone in there, I believe, twice. Vegeta's gone in there numerous times. Piccolo's gone in there once. You're trying to tell me that Krillin, Yamcha, Tien, they couldn't go spend one day in training there with each other? Why is that? Why hasn't that happened yet? And they always say that the potential of humans is unknown. And let's look at that, for example. When they say that Gohan has the potential to be the strongest fighter in the universe, well, he's half human. Now that he's had this recent power up, spoiler alert if you don't read the manga, he has something, or watch Superhero, the movie. He's gone into beast mode now. He has this thing where his hair is grayish white, eyes are red, and he's extremely powerful. Now, we don't know how powerful he is compared to the Goku and Vegetas out there at their current god level, or ultra instinct / ultra ego modes that they have. We're getting ready to find out with the chapter coming out here pretty soon, because the spoilers for chapter 102 has Gohan and Goku fighting. So we get to see exactly how strong beast mode is compared to ultra instinct and maybe ultra ego. But the groundwork is laid for a human to be OP if they would just go through the hyperbolic time chamber at least one time. Always believe in human potential. I as a Dragon Ball fan, and yes, we all love our Saiyans, always think that humans can be something. Look at Tien at Dragon Ball. If he's human, that three-eyed guy. Is he a human? And look how he was hanging with Kid Goku for a time. Why can't he go through the hyperbolic time chamber? Maybe he will unlock some potential or something so he can get the power boost needed and he can hang with the other fighters. Because none of the humans really hang with none of them. None of them hang with Saiyans. Now, Piccolo got an increase and all the Saiyans have their increase. There's just no chance for a human to withstand anything when it comes to these Saiyans. Number two. The lack of consequences. This has always been a thing for Dragon Ball because anything happens, we'll just go get the Dragon Balls and wish it didn't happen. Or, hey, we need to restore this third balance. Let's just go get the Dragon Balls. Why is there a lack of consequences? For example, you got King Kai's death. The death of a Kai. That should be something big that's happened. And how often does a Kai die? So, just to recap, in the series, Goku grabbed Cell and took him to King Kai's planet and blew up there. That's cold-blooded. I teach you to Kaioken and everything. You have the audacity to bring this dude here and blow up my planet. That's so cold. And to this day, he still did. So there hasn't been a Kai, I think it's North Kai. There hasn't been a Kai to watch over the region. Why has that not been another Kai born? Or, what's the situation with that? I think that's very funny that there's no consequences to that. Look at old Kai, for example. He was stuck in a Z sword. He talks about consequences too. For example, he is one that doesn't like the idea of Dragon Balls being used. In the manga, he says, no, you mustn't use the Dragon Balls. They hurl the cosmic order into chaos. Learned long ago, I warned the Namekians to use them on their planet. They never interfere in other planets' fates. So the old Kai doesn't really like the Namekians using the Dragon Balls elsewhere. And now, look at the series now. There's Dragon Balls on planet Cereal, where Granola's at. You got Namek has their Dragon Balls. Earth has their Dragon Balls. And you don't know what's all out there. There's always no consequence to that. And Okai has even gone on to say that in the manga. Another one, and it might be small to you or something like that, but Oob, or Majin Buu, or Kid Buu in this example. Oob has siblings. He has 5 siblings. He's the oldest of those 5 siblings. If you go through the show, Kid Buu ate 2 of the Kais and killed 2 other ones. What if, headcanon, what if those siblings are Kais? Have you ever really seen a Kai die? When old Kai died and gave his life to Goku, what happened to him? He just got a halo. King Kai, he has a halo. He still has his body, and he has a halo. So I'm starting to question if Kais can really die. That's one of the things that is headcanon for that. Number 2, lack of consequences. Number 3, Namekians in general. Namekians play a huge role in Dragon Ball. Again, they create the Dragon Balls, which you can make a wish. There are rules to each set of Dragon Balls by the Namekian that makes them. They have a huge role. Let's take a look at Zalama. Zalama is the creator of the Super Dragon Balls, and he's still alive somewhere out there. And the Super Dragon Balls can grant any wish possible. Also, the Namekian Book of Legends. This book had recorded how to create or how to become a Super Saiyan God. What are the Namekians doing? Are they like universal watchers and stuff like that? It's weird that, the Namekians have this Namekian Book of Legends that record Saiyans. What else is in that Book of Legends? That's one of the things that has got me super curious about the Book of Legends. Like, what's all in it? What can they possibly have in the book? And one thing I do want to talk about is the Great Excursion that happened on Planet Namek. The Great Excursion was where, like, Kami left Planet Namek and arrived here on Earth. How many other Namekians have done that before? I think that is interesting to have. Plus, what about the Namekians? Like the race that Garlic Jr. was. Like, he looked like a Namekian at first, and I thought he was a Namekian too. But is there like a rivalry between them and the Namekians? I think that could be a possible arc if they went in depth with the Namekians, find out what's going on with them. One of the things that I always like, is the idea of a demon realm. Now, we've talked about a hell realm before, but a demon realm, like the last unknown in Dragon Ball, would be like a demon realm. And I'm not talking about the demon realm that we know, like hell or home for infinite losers or that type. I'm talking about a demon realm where the demons there are so corrupt, so evil, that you can't wash their souls. You can't wash their souls and purify them. Like, these demons are so bad to a point where they have a Kai just to watch them. Like a Ma Kaioshin, like a demon version Kai that's his job. He needs to keep the demons under control, build society, just like how Shin, Kibito, the four directional Kais, north, south, east, west, have a structure of Kais, of good people in heaven, where they could do the same thing for hell. I just think that'll be an interesting development. Plus the fact that any demon that comes back and kills puts somebody in limbo. If you go back to Dragon Ball, where Tambourine killed Krillin, that's what set Goku off, because he was told that he can't die because he was killed by a demon. So his soul was in limbo, and that just ticked Goku off to a certain degree, and that was good in Dragon Ball. That is number 4, a demon realm. Number 5, female warriors. I don't know about you, but I always like the idea of having female warriors on the scene. Like in Dragon Ball, we had Bulma. Granted, she's not a hero or not a fighter, so to speak. But we had Chi-Chi, and it was cool to see Chi-Chi fight. And we had Launch with her gun and her sneezing and stuff like that. And we even had female villains like Colonel Violet. Colonel Violet was a female that was evil, and that was interesting. So I always like to have men. That's what made Naruto so interesting, because we had the female and male dynamics, and it was interesting to see like Hinata and Sakura. Like, what do they do? Like, they were fighters too, and they had hands too. So I think having female warriors benefits Dragon Ball as a whole. You can't tell me like you was excited for Kale and Caulifla in Dragon Ball Super when they made their appearance. So, and then we love Android 18. So the female warrior should be a added version or added to Dragon Ball. Number 6. Different versions of Saiyans. Now look here. Everybody and their mama loves Saiyans. We all love Saiyans. If you are in the OC community where you make your own characters, you will see a plethora of Saiyans. But the funny thing about it is that everybody is the typical black hair, brown eyes Saiyan, Super Saiyan, and all that stuff. But what about a blonde-tailed Saiyan, or a white-tailed Saiyan, or a black-tailed Saiyan? Like, and then have those aspects of what is a blonde-tailed Saiyan does. Like, maybe they're more gentle and they don't care about fighting like the brown-tailed Saiyans, or the black-tailed Saiyans are all about fighting and instantly get different modes and different types of Super Saiyan, or they can go Super Saiyan at all. Those different types of Saiyans would be interesting. Some people will say like, well, all the Saiyans died when they were all called back by Frieza. Now, let me ask you something. If your boss called you and said, hey, I'm going to need you to come to work ASAP, are you rushing to get there that fast? I'll tell you, I'm not. I'm like, okay, well, I'll be there when I get ready, okay? And then shoot. And that type of request, I could be, conquering a planet, and then next thing you know, boss calls, hey, I need you to come back to Planet Vegeta. Like, okay, boss, I'll be there. I ain't going right now. You can kick rocks. I don't care about Frieza. I ain't going right now. I'm going to sit here on this planet and chill for a little bit. He didn't tell me when to be there. He just said I gotta show up. I guarantee there's some Saiyans out there just like chilling, like I ain't going back. He ain't paying me. I'm busy doing something else. So I do think a different version of Saiyan would be interesting. Also, somebody that I came across on Twitter made his own version of Saiyans called a Sento Saiyan. The Sento Saiyans have got a very primal look to them, red face paint, and they are very primal. Like everybody likes the Super Saiyan 4. This is like equivalent to Super Saiyan 4. The design of the character looks like Super Saiyan 4, but has no way of going Super Saiyan 4. Has its own lore. This guy, Bon Lupi, the guy who was on Twitter that made the Sento Saiyan, has done a good job of making backstory, purpose, what the designs are and everything. So if you get a chance, go ahead and check him out on X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it, and look up the lore he's wrote for Sento Saiyans. And all Sento Saiyans are related to or named after bath products. So genius. That is absolute genius. A Sento Saiyan is an idea that rocks the dragon, so to speak. Okay, number 7. Movies need to be canon. We've already started that approach with Broly and Gogeta are now officially canon in the Dragon Ball world. But what else? What else could be canon? And there's a couple things. If you watch the movies, you know there's some things that could be added to it to make the idea cooler or to make Dragon Ball cooler. Pun intended. Cooler. Frieza's brother. If you added Frieza's brother to the mix, I think that'll be such a dynamic for Frieza. I think that'll be a good idea because if you watch the movie, you know Cooler was not very fond of his brother. You know, didn't mind him dying or something like that to that nature. I don't remember the exact of Cooler's revenge. Bringing him into canon and getting a chance to rewrite the character where maybe he gets along with his brother and see his brother struggling, like dying and coming back and all that. What if he's like, I heard you died, brother, and then, come back in and, help him train or help him conquer the world or something like that. Having Cooler in there is a very interesting idea. Another thing, the Tree of Might. The Tree of Might was where someone planted a tree, planted a seed on Earth, and that seed began to drain the energy of Earth to bear fruit. Now, one interesting aspect of the Tree of Might is the Earth cannot sustain a Tree of Might, but what if there was a planet that could, and it bared fruit, and it made those people, those fighters, those warriors who ate the fruit substantially stronger? There's an arc right there. There's an arc in something if you bring the Tree of Might into a canon world. That'll be interesting. Janemba, an ultimate demon, how strong he was in his movie, make him canon. But that has to be like end boss type stuff because if it was done, if I remember correctly, Janemba was a fusion of all the demon souls into one body, and he was wrecking stuff. So if you brought Janemba back into the fold, make him canon, that would be interesting. That was number 7. Number 8. We need to have some kind of weakness for Saiyans. At this point, the Saiyans are like Superman. Unimportant. That's exactly what I mean. I mean, if you think about Superman is to a point where it's like, what's the character default or character fault that Superman has? That's where these Saiyans are. How do you beat somebody? It's all about power. That's boring to me when it comes to that. Every character should have a weakness. That's what makes the X-Men, in my opinion, one of the most popular comics of all time. You got Cyclops, can't see, but he has optical blast. Charles Xavier, stuck in a wheelchair, but he has telekinesis. Those are the things that are cool about characters that have character flaws. These Saiyans don't. Now, what I've noticed from the past is that it seems like weather affects the Saiyans. Like, if you go back to World's Strongest, you see that Goku was having difficulties with ice, with powering up. He was marching the castle. He said, "It's so cold, I can't generate any power." That's one of the lines in the movie. Another one was where one of the biofighters was using ice to freeze Goku's limbs and all that stuff before Krillin and Gohan got there. We need to develop some type of weakness for the Saiyans. And the only thing I could think of is weather. Weather was the only thing that could stop Goku from kicking butt. And he really didn't stop him for that long. I think that'll be something headcanon-wise to be looking at. That, number 8. Number 9. Fusions. The fusions need to be more in depth. We need to go more in depth with the fusions. For example, the Metamorians. The Metamorians are the beings or being, depending on how they ever did this, showed Goku a dance where two people could become one, fuse, and become a new warrior. Now, let's think about that for a second. Somebody taught Goku a dance, and he remembered it, showed Goten, his son, and Trunks the same dance. And now him and Vegeta are doing it too. But let's break that down. The Metamorians, who are they? Can there be evil versions of Metamorians? Imagine that the Metamorians have different phases of dances. This dance was a simple pose and then put your fingers together. What happens if you add a moonwalk or, you know what I'm saying? Like it adds something else to it where the fusion dance or the fusion is now an hour long. That's one of the things that always excited me about the idea of the Metamorians. Like if they showed Goku the simplest dance and it did that. Imagine if they did a more complex dance and got a different fusion that lasted longer. And the same thing need to be said about the Potara earrings. Right now the Potara earrings can't do anything for Vegito. This is when Goku and Vegito fuse with the earrings from the gods. Their fusion can last only maybe 10 minutes if they're using their god key. Other than that, they get... No. I take that back. Their fusion with the earrings is supposed to be permanent. Yeah. So their fusion with the earrings is supposed to be a permanent fusion unless the power exceeds the body. That's what I got from it, because in Dragon Ball Super, Vegito couldn't last longer than 10-15 minutes being fused because of the power of the Super Saiyan God key. So what happens if someone like Old Kai started tampering with the power of the fusion earrings and make it more of a stable fusion? Because his fusion is with an old witch and a Kai. Now imagine what they could do if he actually put his genius or his magic levels together to form that type of fusion or a different version of the Potara earrings. I think that'll be interesting. And last thing I wanted to touch about this, they always say that who would win between Gogeta and Vegito, the fusions of Goku and Vegeta. And most people say, hey, it'll be same people, it'll be a tie. Then I always look at what's the fusion technique, a fusion taught by mortals or a technique by the gods. And I always think that Vegeta would beat Gogeta based on that thing alone. So that was number 9, the Metamorians and the fusions. Number 10. The past or other stories that could be told in Dragon Ball. I think that the idea of getting away from the Saiyans would be a decent idea for a little bit. You know, like we always touch on Yamoshi, the original Super Saiyan God, and what happened to him. Because before we knew it was Super Saiyan Broly, we all thought that was Yamoshi coming back to fight with Goku before it turned out to be Broly. But what else? What else could we find out about? Like, what about Frieza? And like, what's going on with his race and his people? Like, I always had this headcanon idea that you have Frieza, King Cold, Cooler, all these Frost, all these cold names, and there's a similar species just like Frieza that are named after warm things like oven and whatever, grill. I don't know. I'm just naming things off right now. But the idea of having a warm race Frieza clan and a cold race Frieza clan and find out what happened in their past. I've already touched on the Namekians as far as, hey, maybe they had a war with the Machians. That'll be interesting. I always think that'll be interesting. What about Master Roshi? Now, remember we had that one manga where I was reincarnated as Yamcha, where someone who read the mangas got reincarnated as Yamcha and went as Yamcha through the whole series. What about Master Roshi? What would it be interesting to see some of the stuff that he did, or go into the side stories that Dragon Ball had with Pikkon? Like, how did he die? And how did he become so powerful? What happened to him? Olibu, one of Earth's mightiest warriors that died a long time ago. Could there be interest in the Dragon Ball past? Zalama, what's he doing? What about Beerus? How did he become a god of destruction? I think those are interesting things to create more story if we go into the past or do a side story so we can figure out some other things that's happening along with Dragon Ball. Because ever since Goku has come around, the story's been fixated on Goku, and rightfully so. One of the most popular animes in the world in all time, all because of Goku. So I just think that'll be interesting if we dipped away from Goku and see what other stories can we possibly tell. So that's my top 10 headcanon, head-scratching things about Dragon Ball. So what do you think? What do you think of that list? I think that's a pretty solid list. The lack of consequence, that's the biggest one for me. But I always like the idea of the humans doing something other than Bulma always having the Dragon Balls. But that's it. That's the 10 things that I think, questions that I ask about Dragon Ball that can be looked at even further. With that being said, we're going to bring the episode to an end. Being a fan of Dragon Ball this long, I always ask myself questions about the daggone series. And so I thought that was a good way to do top 10 things that are on my list. Thank you for tuning in to the WDYM. Again, if you got something, reach out to me. The WDYM podcast at gmail.com. Again, the WDYM podcast at gmail.com. Thank you for listening. As always, we'll be back stronger, bigger, faster than ever. Till next episode. Peace out, Girl Scout, Boy Scout. Peace.